Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is August 30th, 2018. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. Now for this segment, I'm going to talk about an ongoing effort by environmentalists and those concerned about oil and gas extraction and fracking and climate change response advocates to limit areas in which oil and gas can be extracted in Colorado. And I'm going to talk about costs and benefits with regards to making this choice in Colorado, because advocates for drawing back and curtailing oil and gas extraction in Colorado have managed to place on the ballot an initiative that would move oil and gas extraction pads in highly populated areas of Colorado from 500 feet away from buildings and homes to 2,500 feet away from these various facilities. And this would result in a degree of curtailment of oil and gas extraction efforts in Colorado. And because those are associated with an economic interest, the oil and gas industry associated with those interests is fighting hard to get this, well, to pour cold water on the ballot initiative. They fought hard to keep the initiative off the ballot, and now it looks like they're going to fight hard to try to prevent this initiative going forward. So in this conflict, it's worth noting what Coloradans' choices are, and to get a full assessment of the overall impact of their choice. So I'm just going to call your attention to this article in Think Progress entitled "Colorado's Oil and Gas Industry Goes After Reporters and Signature Gatherers in New Fracking Fight." This initial effort by oil and gas industry failed. The ballot initiative is now live. It's now on the 2018 ballot, and so Coloradans have this choice. It's worth noting that the Wall Street Journal is now calling this initiative an effective ban of drilling. It's kind of up in the air whether or not this would be an effective ban. It would certainly limit the areas in which oil and gas companies could drill and extract, and the likely net impact would be a reduction of net oil and gas lifted from the ground in Colorado, sent to refining facilities, and ultimately sent to other places to be burned. And from the point of view of Colorado and human-caused climate change, there is a serious set of benefits to keeping fossil fuels in the ground. And this comes in the form of incentivizing a transition to clean energy, which doesn't have the same level of negative impacts on Colorado's water supplies, on Colorado's air quality, on the health of people living in Colorado, on Colorado's farms and fields and rivers and airs. But in addition to that, by curtailing oil and gas, Colorado is also defending itself against the various slings and arrows of human-caused climate change, which ultimately, if they get intense enough, would likely wreck Colorado's economy as a whole. So when people talk about how many millions of dollars oil and gas interests would lose if extraction is curtailed, you also need to look at how many billions of dollars in losses Colorado is facing if oil and gas and coal burning continue, both due to efforts in Colorado and due to efforts around the world. So this is the choice, ultimately, that voters face, and it's really a choice that those who support the oil and gas industry and fossil fuel burning in general don't want to be revealed to people and unpacked in a way that looks at the whole truth. And so I'm going to just talk about the net potential impacts, negative impacts for Colorado from human-caused climate change if fossil fuel burning continues. So I'd just like to call your attention to this environmental center from the University of Boulder, Colorado website, which visibly displays what some of the changes would look like if fossil fuel burning continues for Colorado. And as we can see, the environment of Colorado dries, the snowpack is greatly reduced, and you end up with much less diversity of wildlife, much less beauty overall in Colorado as native species either move or lose their habitat, which results in loss of life for native species, or are overrun by invasives, or are unable to deal with the various harshities of the new climate regime that is brought about by warming and drying and increased wildfires and loss of snowpack. And I'm just going to go ahead and show you a close-up of this graphic, as well as some of the other graphics here that display the loss. So it's also worth noting that extremes between drying and precipitation increase for Colorado as human-forced climate change ramps up, which, though it results in overall drying, also results in rainfall occurring in more and more extreme events, which increases the risk of severe flooding and damages related to flooding when rainfall does occur, because the scale is tipped toward more intense rainfall when it does happen, according to scientific analysis. We talked about drought, and I'd just like to highlight this graphic from Climate Central, which shows the ongoing drought trend given past years for Colorado, but that this drought trend that we're now seeing, it gets much worse according to most climate projections for Colorado as time moves forward. In addition, Colorado faces severe wildfire risk, rising wildfire risk, as temperatures increase due to fossil fuel burning. So the more temperatures increase, the greater the prevalence of large wildfires for California, which threaten Colorado's communities, cities, farms, and natural resources on a much larger scale, as well as Colorado's air quality. The net effect from human-caused climate change for Colorado is likely to measure in damages that far exceed any short-term economic gains that come from fossil fuel extraction. And ultimately, that's the cost-benefit analysis that needs to be known and readily available to the public so the public can make responsible decisions. And keeping fossil fuels in the ground, curtailing fossil fuel burning while transitioning to clean energy is a responsible decision. So overall, it's worth noting that climate change impacts for Colorado, though we're starting to see impacts now, get a lot worse as you continue to burn fossil fuels and are likely to overwhelm many critical economic systems for Colorado if fossil fuel burning continues. And that's why the present ballot initiative is an important choice. It's an important thing to look at, and it's an important thing to discuss as a larger context what this choice is about. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be chatting with you soon.